tried to get into college, took the college admission exam and bombed it.
Welcome to Pro Business Talk. I'm here with Calvin Bagley, great guy. We're going to introduce him. I'm going to have him tell you some of his background, and then I've got a list of questions for you. First off, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell them a little bit of your background, and if you don't mind, maybe include some of your upbringing to make this even cooler.
Yeah, okay, awesome. I'd love to do that. So I'll start from the beginning. I was raised in a really large family that practiced some version of fundamentalist Mormonism, and weren't like mainstream Mormon. And as people call Mormon, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I still practice the religion today, but I practice it differently than the way I was raised. I practice it with love and compassion and believing in that Jesus Christ has love for all. That wasn't really the way that I was raised. My family was a homeschooled family. There were 9 kids. I was number 7 of 9. And we stayed at home, but we weren't actually taught anything. I had no school books. I had no education coming from my parents whatsoever. My sister taught me to read when I was 7 years old, my sister who was about 10 or 11 years older than me. And I had inadvertently memorized the alphabet backwards because I didn't know the direction of how it worked. And so we had the alphabet at the top of our living room, and I would walk down the stairs and be like Z, Y, X, W, V, U, T, S, R, Q, P, O, N, M, L, K, J, I, H, G, F, E, D, C, B, A.
That's a talent, actually.
Well, maybe now it's like a party trick, but when I was a kid, I just had no point of reference for education, and I went through what would traditionally be high school with no education, no books, no school books, nothing. And so when I was 19 years old, I went on a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I was called to go to Brazil. I went to Brazil. I learned to speak Portuguese. And by learning to speak Portuguese, that taught me English. I learned what a verb was. I learned what a noun was. I learned what sentence structure was. And so that's how I learned English, was learning Portuguese. I came back from my mission at 21 years old and was determined to get an education. By the way, I'm leaving out a lot of abuse and neglect and things that happened in my childhood. It was not pretty, but I'm grateful for how it made me. But and my book is Hiding from the School Bus. If anyone wants to look it up, hidingfromtheschoolbus.com, you can learn about it, and it's an Amazon bestseller.
I'll leave a link down below.
Okay, awesome. So at 21 years old, I studied for many months, and I took the GED exam and got my general education, which would be the equivalent of a high school diploma. I was extremely proud of that. Tried to get into college, took the college admission exam and bombed it because I just did not know math whatsoever. I had no reference for that. Moved to Las Vegas, where my brother and sister-in-law lived. My sister-in-law, who was educated, helped me to learn math. We went to a store and we bought all the grade books from grades 4, because I was comfortable with first, second, and third grade math. Mm-hmm. We bought all the grade books from 4 to 12, and I began to study math, and she taught me a lot of things. And I was able to get into college that way with an admissions counselor who gave me a chance. She gave me 2 semesters as a non-admitted student and said, if you can get passing grades for 2 semesters, then we will admit you. And that's how I got into college. And so many years later, after a lot of, a detour where I became a flight attendant for a while and began to fly around the world and then came back to school. But when I was 34 years old, I graduated from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas with my business administration degree. And just a few years after that, I started my first company, which was in health insurance. Today, and there's a whole journey there of many years, 15 years now in entrepreneurship. I've founded approximately 7 or 8 companies. I can't even keep track these days.
That's great, though.
But they're all related to healthcare and different types of health insurance and what have you, or in some cases, lab services. We have a majority owner in a lab services company that provides lab services for wound and UTI and some other things like that. And as well as multiple businesses. I a true entrepreneur, love entrepreneurship. Think it's the most the most what was the phrase that I used?
Noble.
The most noble. See, you even know. The most
noble.
You
told me earlier.
I know I did. I think it's the most noble of all professions to solve a problem, to build a culture and a company that provides for those who work there as well as those who rely upon it to solve whatever problem it is you're solving. And so today, my companies are worth tens of millions of dollars, and hundreds of people work at my companies, and have found professions and a place to call home, and to also be able to buy homes and provide for their families through the companies that I built. And so I'm very proud of that. So that's me in a 5-minute summary.
I think that's important to preference where you are now. So you've mentioned where you are. Now the first question I have, and if you guys see me looking at my phone, that's my notes. I don't carry paper anymore. It's this. So the first question I have is, given your background, do you feel like a CEO/entrepreneur now? Because being raised how, I know more than what he's mentioned here on the camera, but being raised how you were raised to where you're at now, do you feel like a CEO and an entrepreneur? Or are you still imagining that you'll get there someday?
Well, that's a great question. There are many things that I'm still imagining will come in my future. I feel more like an entrepreneur than a CEO. But for a long time, I believed that I was a CEO and realized that I'm more of an entrepreneur than a CEO. And my largest company, Nuvo Health, which was the first company that I founded, actually has a different CEO than me now.
Whoa,
and is
that's
run
cool.
by Jeremy Weiser, who is the CEO. So yeah, I realized that I am more of an entrepreneur than a CEO, and I feel like a true entrepreneur.
That's pretty cool. So would you say that your background has, and this might be a leading question, would you say that your background has created this unmatched drive that do you think you'll ever stop?
I think you're leading the witness.
Kind of know the answer.
Yeah, it has created, up until a few years ago, I thought I would never stop, quote unquote, stop or be content. But I feel like I'm reaching closer to a stage of contentment where I'm happy. I'm not as concerned about, for a long time it was financial. I'm running from this poor childhood. I'm running from poverty, from a life where as a child I was afraid that we wouldn't have enough food, and sometimes
Right.
we didn't, and I went hungry at night, and I'm running as far as I can from that. And I've told people many times that when you're running away from that, you never stop running. But there is a point that I've begun to reach where I am looking for things beyond financial success. And over the last few years, my focus has moved from financial success to, people talk about 10x. I'm going to 10 times my business. I want to 10 times my life, 10x my influence, 10x my relationships in my family and with my children and what have you. And so, I still have an incredible drive. It's less focused financially and more focused on impact than it used to be.
So what changed? Because I know in my life there's certain aspects where I can go, okay, this one event changed here, this one led to this event, and so on and so forth. So you still have a drive, but what changed the direction of that drive?
For me, I was running and running to try to prove that I was good enough, and to try to prove that I was as smart as everyone else. I always wanted to be normal, and I was nothing close to normal. This homeschool kid. Everyone thought we were weirdos. We were weirdos. We were strange. I didn't have friends and things like that. So I was trying to prove myself, and ultimately, above everything, to prove to my parents. My father is actually deceased. My mother is in her mid-80s now. But I was still trying to prove something to them. And then I realized what was happening. I realized where I was. And there's a whole story to that. When I began to realize that, and I began to work on myself internally, to work on the voices in my head, to work on the feelings in my heart, then it began to change. And it wasn't so much about proving myself anymore, and it has become more about improving myself rather than proving myself.
I think so many times we're trying to prove to ourselves and sometimes others, how we move forward and whatnot. And so I love that you switch to improving on yourself instead of proving yourself. That's a cool way to look at
Thank
it.
you.
What was business like when you first started, and what's it like now? So you mentioned you have a CEO now of your main company. And so I imagine that, and we talked about it briefly before, but I imagine there's some pretty drastic changes.
Oh, it's unrecognizable where it was, where it started, and where it is today. When it started, it was me doing everything by myself, as a one-person entrepreneurial venture, and that means that you do everything. You're the chief salesperson, and you are making the decisions about all the whatever marketing direction you're going, and you're accounting for everything that happens in the company, and you're trying to figure out how to file your taxes, and have all the right documents for your CPA, and at the same time you're like, I don't think I can afford a CPA. It's all those things.
Right.
It's like
Right.
just struggle to survive. And in the beginning, I funded my company through debt and through debt to myself. I sacrificed everything I had. At the time when I started the company, I owned a home in California and I owned a home in Las Vegas. The one in Las Vegas was upside down because of the Great Recession, and the one in California was right side up because it had started to rebound. And I used all the money from my home in order to start the business, and it wasn't enough. I went into debt, into credit card debt and everything, and I put everything on the line. And I hesitate when I say that because I've seen people do that for businesses and ideas that just weren't worth doing that for. But I believed in what I was doing, and it proved to be worth doing. So that's where I started, just putting everything I had into it and doing it all myself. Where I am today is, a team. There are a combination of employed and 1099 team in the hundreds. A CEO who runs the main company, and I have an opportunity to do the things that I love to do, which is be creative and solve problems and come up with new ideas and be an entrepreneur.
There's obviously a drive, or you wouldn't have done it, and there was massive amount of risk. It sounds like, and I've been there. The stress. Would you do that all over again?
Absolutely, because there's they say there's only one way, and it's through. And
right.
The obstacle is the way is another thing they say. The obstacle is the way, but like you some things you can't go over, around, or under. You have to go through, and so I'm here because I went through. So I would not change that.
That's pretty cool. And we did talk about that briefly, where neither one of us would change how we got here.
I wouldn't.
I don't think I would either.
Else I wouldn't be here, right?
I think I would make better decisions based off the education that I've had, but I don't think I would change the experience because that's what made me grow. Yeah. How do you rank in your industry? So Nuevo Health, is that just strictly Medicare? Maybe give a little bit background, and where do you rank?
Yeah. So Nuevo Health is think of it like a wholesaler for Medicare insurance. And we help insurance agents who want to represent Medicare plans get access to those Medicare plans. In addition to that, it owns a couple of other agencies that go directly. So one aspect is to help insurance agents to have access to Medicare, because let me explain this a little bit. If you went to United Healthcare, Humana, Aetna, one of these big insurance companies, said, "Oh, I want to sell your Medicare plan," they would point you towards some form of distribution, because they don't want to work with 100,000 or 200,000 insurance agents independently.
Right.
It's easier for them to have a channel, and so we're in that channel. And in that channel, there are the giant, big, huge groups, and I would say there's maybe a dozen who are the largest of the large, and they are sort of at the top, and then we would be right below them. And we are nationwide. We help people all over the country with their insurance. So that's the distribution side. The other side is that we help people directly.
Okay.
So I have multiple agencies that Nuevo Health owns that help seniors and people with Medicare to make a decision about their Medicare insurance. One of them is called the Medicare Store. We have 5 physical locations where people can walk in the Southwest of the United States, walk in and get help. After COVID, people sort of stopped doing that, and they wanted to be helped online or over the phone or through a Zoom meeting or something like that. And so that we started another agency called PlanFit, myplanfit.com. And PlanFit, the idea is to help people find the plan that fits them for Medicare. Mm-hmm. That helps people all over the country. So we have helped somewhere around 60,000 people with their Medicare and health insurance across the nation, all 50 states and the territories as well.
I think it is so freaking cool that your background that you came from to one of the leading businesses that you started in the nation. I mean, very inspirational. Just I don't even know how to word it.
Thank you.
It's really cool to see.
Thank you. And there are a couple of ways to measure impact. One is how many people how much have you quote unquote sold, right? We don't really sell anything. We provide a service, but how much have you sold? You can measure the impact that you've had. And another way is how much do you influence? And so I would say in that space, there are a handful. I would say there are maybe 3 or 4 major influencers in Medicare insurance on the industry side. And I'm one of those major influencers. And so I give influence on policy. I go to Washington, D.C. I meet with politicians. I meet with regulators at Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS. I have met people like RFK Jr. And others. And so I would say on the influence side, I've had a lot of influence on our little piece of the world in healthcare.
That brings me to another question. So when you were just getting into business, did you see yourself here?
No.
Not at all, huh?
No. I think that sometimes you can't see, you yourself can't have the vision until it comes. It's like going towards, climbing a peak or going towards the horizon. You get closer to the horizon and then you see what's behind the horizon. It's another horizon.
So describe a day when you first started, like maybe time frame and what you did compared to now. And obviously now you've got some time or we wouldn't be able to sit here during the day. But I think that's a neat thing when you first start out because it points out how hard starting a business really is. You have to wear every hat. Now you probably have 1 or 2 hats and you get to do the fun stuff. But before you had 30 hats.
When I first started, my day was spent trying to find people who needed help with their insurance. And calling, there's this ugly underbelly in all the sales world called leads. I hate leads. We don't use leads at my company.
That's awesome.
I'm anti-lead. But when I started, that's what the group that I started with, that's what they did, is they bought leads from places like insuranceleads.com where people would go on a website. This is what I hate about it. You go on a website, you think that you're going to get a quote, and then at the end when you put all your information in, if you've ever done this with a car insurance website or something, it's like so frustrating.
You get spammed at the end.
Yeah. Then all of a sudden a bunch of people call you.
Yeah.
And I through the agency where I started as an insurance agent, that's what they did. They bought those, but I had to pay for them, and then call people and hope to be the first person to call and try to help people. I hate that. Absolutely hate that. And that was how I got my first, handful of clients. And then I realized very quickly that they would refer me to their friends and family very quickly. And then when I started thinking about referrals, then I started to work. I'm telling you how I built my business versus what I did. But
that's okay.
Someone would, I would sit with someone who needed help with insurance, and they would say, Dr. Jones, I want to make sure that my plan is accepted at Dr. Jones' office. So I would get them in an insurance plan that Dr. Jones accepted, and then I would go to Dr. Jones' office. Hey, I just met with Susie, and she loves you guys, and she wanted to make sure that she could come here, and so I made sure that her insurance, and I would then try to get the doctor's office to refer to me by proving to them first that I had taken good care of their patients.
That is genius.
Thank you.
So you hear about people getting leads. You hear about maybe connecting the leads and closing the sale, right? Mm-hmm. But you don't hear about the backside, because most people don't do it, of going to the person, and in this case, insurance, making sure they accept the leads.
Yeah.
Which now you're getting credibility from both parties.
Yeah.
And then to scale would just fly.
Yeah. So that's where I started. Now today, now I am, I'm influencing what's happening in the Medicare space. I'm doing things like meeting with policymakers and thought leaders and what have you in insurance and in Medicare specifically. I'm on the Medicare Advisory Group which is a nationwide group of only 7 individuals who give policy direction on Medicare. And so now, it's kind of like now it's a little more political. It's like shaking hands and kissing babies, where I used to be like struggling to figure things out, and then also continuing to provide influence within the companies that I've started. But so those things have changed. But yeah,
that's pretty cool. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
What would you tell your younger self, whether in good times, bad times, whatever, before you started or after you started your entrepreneurship? Like what is something, maybe a sentence or two, that you would tell your younger self?
I would say get out of your head and just take a minute to breathe. Just get out of your own way. Sometimes your own thought and your chatter and everything that's going on in there, if you just calm yourself down and take a breath, and don't be a stressed, ball of nerves, because that's where I was for many years, just
Yeah.
like so many entrepreneurs who started a business and everything depends on it, everything. So, I wouldn't necessarily go back and say, hey, it's all going to work out.
Because you don't know.
Because you don't know,
Right.
but I would say, you could find some in those early times when it was so stressful and so hard and just, and every hour of every day and then hours at night. Take some time for yourself, take a breath, get out of your own head. Don't be so stressed, because, building, those initial years were hard on my personal relationships with my wife.
Yeah.
And then we had our son was born, which was that's a whole story, because we had fertility challenges. And then right when I quit my corporate job and started the company, my wife miraculously became pregnant.
Oh, wow. So more stress was added.
I say miraculous. There was help from doctors, but we didn't have to do in vitro. And so all of that happened at the same time, all of this stress and this pressure that it had to work at all costs, which was a driver for me, but also had an impact on me emotionally and physically. So I would say to myself, take a breath, calm down, get out of your head. It's going to be okay.
When anyone starts a business, we make a lot of mistakes, and it's just inevitable.
It's inevitable.
Would you think, though, that would have lessened some of those mistakes if you would have relaxed, calmed down, take a breath?
I don't know. There was so much I had to learn through trial and error. And if you're not okay making mistakes and looking like a fool, then you're not meant for entrepreneurship.
Right.
You have to be able to do that. And I say, okay, I'm never okay with that. I don't like to look like a fool, and I don't like to make mistakes, and I don't like to be wrong. But I'm still willing to take a risk and be there and recover and do it right the next time, or figure something out, right? So I've spent millions and millions and millions of dollars making mistakes in marketing that eventually taught me how to be successful, right?
I think for me, it would be kind of along the same lines, where I would just relax. I would learn to breathe. I would make different decisions as to what industry I went in, because I went into the labor industry, high overhead, high cost, high stress. You're friends with your clients for about 2 weeks in a construction industry. And then after that, it's not that you're not friends, it's that you become more of inconvenience, because you're invading their personal space when you're working on their home. You guys are going through a remodel right now. So you understand exactly where after 2 weeks, you're like, okay, this is great.
Is it done yet?
Right.
No, just 6 months to go.
Right, exactly. So I would change industries. I would change some of that. I would say to anyone out there that, hey, really put some thought into how you want to go. Sometimes it's out of desperation. Sometimes, and sometimes, like you said, you catch a good wave and you're able to go. Other times, you start it because, A, there might not be any other options, but learning more about yourself and how to be calm is very important. So what I do now is I do something fun every day. It can be something fun that I'll do on my own in the middle of the day, or it can be something fun. Like I love to go off-roading. Rock crawling out there is so fun.
Yeah.
And you're vertical, and I grew up in sand and beach and mud, right? And so when you're vertical on a rock and your Jeep's walking over it, I put a smile on my face every day.
That's great. I love it.
But I'll do something fun or something meaningful to counteract the stress of whatever situation. I imagine even now you're still not stress-free because you're an entrepreneur. There's no such thing as a stress-free life. But doing something every day, whether it's with my wife, my kids, something fun, it really puts things in perspective. I have a couple rules when I do something fun. I can't think about anything else. I can't be in my business mind. I can't be in any other mindset. I need to be in the moment, enjoying what's around me. It really, really helps. I've just found that it calms my brain. And so I'm very observant of how I get anxiety, how I feel. It's just interesting to put the two together and then go, oh, wait a minute. When I'm doing this, I feel this way. Or when I'm in business and things get stressed, I can stop, recognize it, and I can go do something fun. Because when we start out, it's just go. It's 150 miles an hour. You don't stop. You don't blink. You don't really sleep. You get a few hour nap.
Some years ago, I was sitting in a business coaching meeting. It was actually a strategic coach. And I was thinking about the business and doing a SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden it hit me. Calvin, you are the biggest threat to your business. I'm like, well, wait a minute. In my mind, I'm having this discussion in my head. Well, wait a minute. I'm the only reason this thing exists. There are hundreds of people who rely on this for their families and for their income and everything. Like I'm the rainmaker.
Right.
How could I be the biggest risk to my business? No, you are the biggest risk to your business, because one day if you decide that you're exhausted, that you're tired, that you're going to sell it to a VC fund, or you're the biggest risk to your own business.
Right. A couple bad decisions can destroy a business.
Make a bad decision, you can destroy it. You have no board of directors or anything like that. You make all decisions. You own the company, you're the CEO, you're everything. You're the biggest risk to this business. It was a really, really good realization for me. I had been the rainmaker. I had been the biggest blessing, so to speak. I had helped, there were so many people that made this company successful. And so I want to give everyone their due. I had started it and I had led it to where it was. And so there was all this positive stuff, but then to realize, wait a minute, if I don't take care of me, then especially when you get past that first initial grind stage, if I don't take care of me, and if I stop loving what I'm doing, then that's a threat to my business and to everyone who works here.
Right.
And so I have got to take time for me. I have got to take care of me. Because if you had a thoroughbred that was the fastest thoroughbred in the world, and they were going to win the Triple Crown and everything like that, I mean, wouldn't you take good care of that racehorse?
Right.
Yeah, you wouldn't have it up late at night. You wouldn't be feeding it junk food and sugar and everything late at night. What would you do? You would take good care of that horse. You would treat it well. You would feed it well, you would exercise it well, you would give it enough sleep, you would give it recreation. It wouldn't be running a race every single hour of every day. You are the racehorse. Mm-hmm. If you really are the rainmaker, you're the racehorse. And so, understanding that you have got to take care of yourself is really important.
Now, my next question would be, what would you tell your future self? Because we always ask, what would you tell yourself in the beginning? Now, you're established, you've built this great company, you treat people really well. What would you tell your future self? This is a tough question that I haven't been able to answer for myself yet either. So
yeah, well, you're just hitting me with it right here. But my initial reaction was, you better make something out of this. Right. I've been grinding. I've been working hard. You better make something out of this.
Yeah, I agree. That's such a tough question, because we look back and we go, oh, we can do this. But looking forward, I don't know what advice to give myself.
Yeah, I hope that my future self, I don't know what to tell them, but I know what to hope for them. I hope that future self has taken very good use of the opportunity that has been created here. And when I say very good use, oftentimes, you and I were talking about this a little bit earlier, but we measure things in revenue or widgets sold or whatever it is. Right. That's how we measure a lot of success and impact in business. But there's more to that. There's more to life than that. And so I hope that my impact has increased 10 times what it is now. And that doesn't mean that necessarily my revenue has increased 10 times. Sure, why not? That's fine with me. But my goals are more along impact, and I hope that my future self has increased impact.
So increased impact from 60,000 people helped. You get to service. I mean, that's huge.
People helped. People within the company who rely on this company for their livelihood. My personal life and my impact within, with my spouse and my children. I have young children. I have a 13-year-old boy, and my daughter turned 8 yesterday. Impact within my church and community. Impact within my industry, as a leader within the industry. All of those things any one of those things could be 10x impact and have a massive impact on my personal well-being, my health, my legacy, or whatever it is, and have nothing to do with revenue. So that's what I mean by impact, is all those things.
I like the thing, when you double a penny, it takes so many times to get to $1 million. It's not very many. Yeah. Right. And so if you can 10 times your influence, pretty soon now you're making a huge impact. And you've already made a big impact, but you take that big impact and you double it, triple it, 10 times it. That's impressive. What a cool goal to work towards. Sure, if you want 10 times your revenue, great. But more importantly, if you can 10 times your impact, That's super cool. I don't see how you can lose your drive if that's your focus. Like I said, money's superficial. At some point, you have everything you ever wanted, and yeah, you can always buy more, but it doesn't buy gratification. But to 10 times your influence, that's gratification that you can look back and go, holy cow, and you kind of look up and go, hey, thanks.
Man, this has been a really fun conversation. I really enjoyed it.
Me too. Thank you for your time. I couldn't schedule it fast enough. I was like, man,
you were ready to go.
Whatever day, I'm going to make this work. My schedule's clear. I wanted it to be like that day great. Kind of thing. So cool. I appreciate you taking the time. I'm going to put a link to your book. Okay. So guys, Calvin Bagley, there's going to be more.